Hey there, Dr. Graham here and
Dr. Marie.
welcome to Movement Practice Level 3. This is the most advanced practice of all three, of course, and you're going to be really diving into some active full body mobility patterns. You're also going to find that the stability portion is quite a bit more advanced, and often we find people have questions about these. So if you do have any, feel free to ask and we'll help you. Enjoy the journey. So we're starting here with cervical 2x2s, or active ranges of motion of the neck. And we're going to begin with rotation side to side, avoiding any movements from a forward head posture. We're keeping it tall, and also making sure that as we rotate the head, we're not looking up or down. It's on a nice swivel. Next, we're going to transition to lateral flexions or lateral bending. We're making sure the movement's coming from the whole neck and not just the top. We're not pushing this range of motion too far, as this can be a little uncomfortable at the base of the neck for those who don't have a neck that moves well. And finally, we're going to tuck the chin and then look up to the sky. Please avoid the whole neck collapsing forward. This is simply a small chin tuck that you should feel on the base of the neck and the front of the neck, and then we're gently looking up to the sky as well. Here we have shoulder to overhead. We're beginning with the palms facing forward, and finally reaching the palms together, keeping the elbows straight. Now, the key here is to keep the shoulders in that position with the palms facing forward to avoid any pinching or discomfort in the shoulder itself. And Marie's really reaching for the sky at the top. You may feel a bit of a burn or fatigue in the shoulders. That's okay. You will build those muscles over time. And if you're beginning here, because you have an inability to go all the way overhead, that's okay. As you continue to do this, focus on bringing the arms higher and higher over time. Lumbar lock thoracic rotation. So Marie's going to be on the ground here in a modified child's pose position, and we're going to have the knees driven out slightly wider than the hips and posting the elbow directly in the middle. We're going to take the hand, place it behind the head. Do not allow the head to shift forward and collapse. And breathe out while rotating the thoracic spine, the head and neck, up towards the sky. We're holding for just a second at the top, and we're ensuring that Marie doesn't leave this tunnel. So the torso should not be rotating in its entirety. We want to keep it nice and straight. And of course, we're going to do both sides for this exercise. Now, if this one is too difficult to get into that position, we can utilize a chair. So this is the easier version, but similar principles. We're going to hinge forward a little bit here, and we're going to do the exact same movement pattern with the head in a good position. The torso is rotating, looking up to the sky with a brief pause at the top, nice and controlled. So we're going to move into the Pretzel here. First thing Marie will do is lie on her side with the hips stacked and the shoulders stacked. So what I mean by that is we don't want them on an angle, we want them in a nice line. So this is a bit of a tricky one to get into. For some people, putting a pillow beneath the head can be helpful, but effectively Marie's going to bring this thigh up towards her body and this thigh back so that she's almost in a straight line here. Now this is where things get a little bit difficult. We're going to do our best to grab the bottom of the foot. If you cannot do that, you can use a band on the foot to bring it up. And then this hand is going to pull on the leg. And then simultaneously, Marie's going to think about bringing this foot down towards the ground with her whole body, so the torso, foot, while keeping this on the ground. And then once in that position, she's just going to take deep belly breaths and really sink into it. And when you come out of this exercise, it's just a gentle reversal. Foot comes back up, you can release this leg and allow yourself to go back to a neutral posture. So the 90-90 stretch to mobilize both hips. First thing Marie is going to do is go into what's called the 90-90 position. So we've got this leg at 90 degrees and this leg at 90 degrees, or as close as possible. It might be a 70-70 or an 80-80, that's okay. We just generally want to do our best to get in that position. The other key here is a tall posture and making sure we're nice and neutral. Because this is so deep, the tendency is it's going to want to either force you to round or almost keel over like this. So you can use a hand as a bit of a support, or if you have a support block that you need, a yoga block, it could be a textbook, those are all helpful. Now to intensify this stretch, if it's not already deep enough, you're gonna think about a nice tall posture and then translating the torso forward on top of the hip. And most notably, you'll feel this through this hip as you do it. And once you get into this position, just really focus on taking nice deep belly breaths and drive your breath into that hip that's being so deeply stretched. And when you come out of this stretch, slowly and gently go back to a neutral position, as that is a very deep, intense stretch. All right, so we're gonna shift gears and work on the inside of the leg. So Marie's going to drive this leg out to the side with the foot facing forward. And in this case, the knee is directly beneath the hip. Tall posture, engaged core. What's gonna happen here is Marie's going to shift her pelvis and torso back so that the bum is almost gonna come all the way down and rest onto the foot. And then she's going to drive the hips forward. So as she goes deeper, she's going to feel this stretch on the inside of the leg intensify. Now, a couple keys here. As you go deep into this stretch and it gets tighter along the inner part of the leg, the tendency is for the hip to really rotate out of a neutral posture. So I want you to think of keeping that as straight as you possibly can and nice and controlled as you go through your reps. And of course, once you finish one side, you're going to transition into the other leg. So we'll move into the lateral sliders here. Marie's going to take a wide stance and she's going to maintain the feet facing forward, posture tall, arms out, core engaged. I want you to think of if there was a bar directly over your head, you're going to be sliding side to side, making sure that your head doesn't touch that bar. Just pause gently at the end range, and you're going to feel this in a multitude of places as you open up the hips and keep them moving. Floor angels. Marie's going to have the feet directly on the ground here, and we're going to go to a 90-degree position with the arms on the ground here. Effectively, what Marie is going to do is reach overhead until the elbows straighten, and then she's sliding it back down. Now, for some, this is a difficult movement as you begin to open up the shoulders, so you may only be able to go to here until you start to feel some pressure or too much of a pull, and that's okay. If you get to the top and bringing it back down creates some shoulder dysfunction, you can do a reset instead. So once you get there, just lift up the arms and bring them back in, reset, and then go through your next repetition. Good mornings, a great exercise to open up the hamstrings and engage the core. So we've got our platter of food that we can't spill. Marie's got the core engaged, so the ribs are staying down, shifting the butt back, and then driving the hips forward by squeezing the glutes. So squeezing them at the end there, and really going as deep as possible so that you feel a good lengthening through the back of the leg and the hamstrings. So we'll transition into a hip flexor stretch. Starting position here is almost in a lunge position. We're seeing that the knee is below the hip and we're 90 degrees here, tall posture. So the very first thing Marie is going to do is squeeze the butt muscles and tilt the pelvis backward just gently and simultaneously shift forward, just a touch. For many people, just that subtle movement is going to be enough to feel a deep stretch through the front. Now for bonus points here, what we're going to do is once in that position, we're going to try to bring the heel up towards the bum, hold it for a couple of seconds, which is going to increase the intensity of the stretch here, and then slowly control it down. Once you are in that position, we really want to make sure we're breathing into the hip, breathing through the diaphragm as we open up the hip flexor. So here we have a great hip and lat opener. And Marie's going to start in a child's pose position, so wide knees, and we're going to transition flat onto the floor. Now, what we're going to do next is bring this arm over, and you can really rotate the torso with that a little bit too, as long as the hips are staying neutral here. So pull that over a little bit more there, Marie. And once she's there, so she's already experiencing a stretch through the side body, but we're going to keep this pelvis still, and we're going to rotate the torso and almost rock it side to side. So you can see here, the movement's coming from here, not here. And what that's going to do is lengthen the lat tissue and what's called your thoracic lumbar fascia and create some nice opening to that side body. So once you finish that side, you're going to just gently come out of it and then shift to the opposite side. And you may find one side is quite a bit tighter than the other. So just gently move through those gentle rotations and breathe through your belly as you go. So level 3 of the movement practice is the most complex. You should have mastered the dead bug, side bridge, and bird dog in its more basic forms before trying this. So if you haven't, please make sure you're very comfortable with those exercises in the other 2 practices. So we're gonna fast track this a little bit. Marie's gonna start in the dead bug position, same cues as always, minus the ball. So we're purely going with opposites on this one. So opposite hand, opposite leg, and she's gonna be running through her repetitions. So after she's finished her repetitions in the dead bug, we're gonna introduce what's called a transition. So you do this in both directions, but we're gonna show you just one direction. So Marie's transitioning into a modified side bridge position here. So the core is nice and tight. She's engaged and moving onto the elbow. And you can see the ankles are together and the hips are staying slightly apart in a nice straight line here. So we're gonna keep running through those so you can keep seeing it. So core engaged, slowly rotating, pivoting onto the elbow, nice and tall. Ankles are together, knees are spread. And of course, from the dead bug, you would do the transition and shift into the side bridge. So what you can see here, the difference is it's not a sustained position. Marie's doing repetitions into that side bridge position, keeping the knees apart and the ankles together. So next, we look at the most difficult version of that, which is the side bridge with the reach overhead and the leg kick too. So she's keeping the torso neutral and reaching both with the knee and the arm at the same time. So if you're able to do the basic side bridge there, then you would do that version right there. So from the side bridge, we're going to transition into this tabletop position. So we're in the same position with the knees spread, feet together, propping up on the hand, and then shifting into the basic tabletop position, and then slowly going back to that side bridge position as well. So step 1, up on the hand, transition over, and then hip down, arm down. So finally we go into the bird dog. So full repetitions here with the bird dog, where we're extending the arm and the leg at the same time, keeping nice neutral posture,